The greatest power you possess is not found in your physical strength, your material wealth, or even your intellect. The greatest power lies in your ability to remain unshaken in the face of adversity. To act as if nothing bothers you is not merely a show of stoicism. It is the ultimate demonstration of mental mastery. After studying the world's most successful individuals for over 25 years, I discovered a fundamental truth. The mind that remains calm amid chaos is the mind that ultimately achieves greatness. Today, I will share with you the principles that will transform your mental state from one of reactivity to one of supreme control. These are not mere theories. These are battle-tested strategies used by the world's most accomplished individuals to rise above circumstances that would crush the average person. Consider this truth. Every achievement, every fortune, every empire begins with a thought properly held in the mind. The quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. The average mind reacts impulsively to external stimuli. A criticism triggers defensiveness. A setback prompts despair. An obstacle generates frustration. But the superior mind, the mind that achieves extraordinary success, remains unaffected by these external forces. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in history, once told me, "Hill, my success is not due to my business acumen alone. It is due to my ability to remain calm when others panic, to think clearly when others are confused, and to act decisively when others hesitate." This mental discipline is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. It is what allows certain individuals to rise like cream to the top of life's circumstances, while others remain submerged beneath the weight of their own emotional reactions. Let me ask you a profound question. How much energy have you wasted throughout your life reacting emotionally to circumstances beyond your control? The average person spends countless hours replaying arguments in their mind, dwelling on past mistakes, worrying about future uncertainties, feeling offended by others' opinions, and lamenting over missed opportunities. This emotional reactivity is not merely uncomfortable, it is expensive. It costs you your peace of mind, your productive energy, and ultimately, your success. Thomas Edison, after watching his laboratory burn to the ground, destroying years of work, simply remarked, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." The next morning, he began rebuilding without wasting a moment on despair. This is the mindset of achievement. Not an absence of emotion, but a mastery over emotion that prevents external circumstances from derailing internal purpose. The first step toward acting as if nothing bothers you is to practice emotional detachment. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. Rather, it means developing the ability to observe situations objectively without becoming entangled in emotional reactions. When Henry Ford faced criticism for his revolutionary assembly line methods, he did not waste energy defending himself or questioning his vision. He remained detached from the opinions of others, focusing instead on the evidence that supported his direction. To develop this skill, you must train yourself to pause before reacting. When faced with a potential emotional trigger, take a deep breath and create mental space. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Consider, is my reaction improving this situation? Remember that your energy is finite and precious. Do not waste it on matters that do not deserve your attention. The second principle is mental preparation. The unshaken mind is not born. It is built through deliberate practice and preparation, just as a warrior trains for battle long before the fight begins. You must prepare your mind for challenges before they arise. Each morning, spend time in quiet contemplation, visualizing potential obstacles you might face during the day. See yourself responding with calm, clear-headed action rather than emotional reaction. This mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that your mind will follow when real challenges emerge. John D. Rockefeller, even during the most tumultuous financial crises, maintained a strict morning routine of reflection and preparation. His associates marveled at his composure during market crashes that sent others into panic. His secret was simple. He had already faced these scenarios in his mind and was therefore prepared to face them in reality. The third principle is perspective mastery. Every event in life can be viewed from multiple angles. The emotionally reactive person allows circumstances to dictate their perspective, while the mentally strong individual consciously chooses the perspective that serves their greater purpose. When Theodore Roosevelt lost his wife and mother on the same day, he could have been crushed by grief. Instead, he wrote in his diary, "The light has gone out of my life," and then proceeded to channel his energy into purposeful action. He chose a perspective that acknowledged his loss without allowing it to define his future. When faced with adversity, ask yourself, what perspective would serve me best in this moment? Is there a lesson to be learned, an opportunity to be seized, a strength to be developed? By consciously choosing your perspective, you reclaim power over circumstances that might otherwise control you. The fourth principle is selective attention. The mind that remains unbothered has learned to direct its attention with precision. It focuses on what can be controlled and releases what cannot. William Wrigley, Jr., who built an empire from a simple stick of gum, was once asked how he managed to stay focused amid fierce competition and changing market conditions. He replied, "I decided early in my career what deserved my attention and what did not. Competitors' actions, market fluctuations, and critics' opinions fall into the latter category. My product quality, customer satisfaction, and business innovation fall into the former. Your attention is your most valuable asset. Guard it jealously. When you find yourself fixating on matters beyond your control, others' opinions, past mistakes, unfair treatment, consciously redirect your focus to areas where your energy can produce results." The fifth principle is emotional transmutation, the ability to convert negative emotional energy into productive power. This is perhaps the most profound skill of the unbothered mind. Imagine for a moment that someone criticizes your work harshly. The average person might feel anger, embarrassment, or self-doubt, emotions that drain energy and cloud judgment. But the master of mental control transmutes this emotional energy into determination, using the criticism as fuel to improve and excel. Charles Schwab rose from factory worker to industry leader not by avoiding criticism, but by transforming it into motivation. "I have never found," he said, "that criticism is so damaging as the waste of energy spent in resentment. When negative emotions arise, and they will, for you are human, do not suppress them or express them rashly. Instead, acknowledge them, then ask, how can I use this energy productively? Anger becomes determination. Fear becomes preparation. Disappointment becomes reassessment. This is the alchemy of emotional mastery." The sixth principle is the practice of non-identification. Most people identify completely with their thoughts and emotions, believing, "I am angry," rather than, "I am experiencing anger." This subtle difference is transformative. The unbothered mind observes emotions as temporary weather patterns passing through consciousness, not as fundamental aspects of identity. Just as the sky is not defined by passing clouds, your essential nature is not defined by passing emotional states. George Washington Carver, who rose from slavery to become one of America's greatest inventors, practiced this principle throughout his life. When faced with racial prejudice that would have embittered many, he maintained his focus and dignity. "I refuse," he said, "to allow the actions of others to define my experience of life." When troubling emotions arise, practice saying to yourself, "I notice I'm feeling angry, fearful, anxious right now, rather than I am angry, fearful, anxious. This creates space between your essential self and the temporary emotional experience. The seventh principle is purposeful response rather than automatic reaction. The unbothered mind is not passive. It is purposefully active. It responds to circumstances based on values and goals rather than reacting based on conditioning and habit. Consider how J.P. Morgan handled the financial panic of 1907. While others reacted with fear, selling assets at devastating losses, Morgan responded with calculated action, gathering resources and stabilizing the market. The difference between his response and others' reactions changed the course of financial history. Before responding to any challenging situation, ask yourself, what response would best serve my ultimate purpose? This question shifts you from the reactive brain to the responsive mind, from the primitive to the evolved. The eighth principle is comprehensive self-care. The mind that remains unbothered understands that mental resilience depends on physical and spiritual maintenance. Proper rest, nutrition, exercise, and contemplative practice are not luxuries, but necessities for the emotionally stable individual. Henry Ford, despite the enormous pressures of building an industrial empire, maintained strict routines of physical activity and adequate rest. When asked how he managed the stress of his responsibilities, he replied, "I keep my body strong so that my mind may remain clear." Your ability to remain unbothered in challenging circumstances diminishes significantly when you are physically depleted. Honor the connection between body and mind by maintaining the physical foundation upon which mental mastery is built. The ninth principle is selective companionship. The unbothered mind recognizes that emotional states are contagious. It chooses companions who reinforce mental strength rather than drain it. Cornelius Vanderbilt surrounded himself with individuals who maintained composure under pressure and avoided those prone to emotional volatility. In business and in life, he observed, one's associates often determine whether one maintains control or loses it. Evaluate your social circle honestly. Are there individuals who consistently pull you into emotional reactivity? Are there others who inspire calm, reasoned responses to life's challenges? Without judging others, gradually shift your time and energy toward those who reinforce the mental state you wish to cultivate. The 10th principle is continuous mental training. The unbothered mind is not achieved once and maintained effortlessly. It requires ongoing practice and refinement. Just as a musician must practice daily to maintain technical proficiency, you must exercise your mental muscles consistently to sustain emotional stability. Reading materials that strengthen your philosophical foundation, practicing meditation or prayer to quiet mental chatter, journaling to process experiences objectively. These are not occasional activities, but daily disciplines for those who would master their mental state. Benjamin Franklin devoted time each day to reviewing his conduct and measuring it against his principles. This practice allowed him to maintain remarkable equanimity through war, political turmoil, and personal challenges that would have unbalanced a lesser mind. The 11th principle is the development of mental immunity. Just as your body develops immunity to disease through exposure to pathogens, your mind develops immunity to emotional disturbance through purposeful exposure to challenges. William Randolph Hearst deliberately sought out criticism of his early publications not to implement every suggestion, but to desensitize himself to the sting of negative feedback. In time, he developed such immunity to criticism that competitors' attempts to unsettle him had no effect whatsoever. Do not shield yourself from all discomfort. Instead, gradually expose yourself to challenging situations in controlled measures, building tolerance for emotional discomfort while maintaining your center. This practice builds mental immunity that will serve you when larger challenges inevitably arrive. The 12th principle is the cultivation of higher perspective. The truly unbothered mind is not merely focused on personal equilibrium, but on contribution to something greater than itself. It finds serenity in service to worthy goals that transcend individual concerns. Helen Keller, despite challenges that would have justified perpetual frustration, maintained remarkable poise throughout her life. When asked about her equanimity, she explained, "When one focuses on the needs of others, one's own difficulties diminish in significance. Connect yourself to causes and purposes larger than your personal comfort." This expanded identity provides a stable foundation from which personal offenses and disappointments can be viewed with appropriate perspective. The 13th principle is the practice of gratitude. The unbothered mind regularly directs attention toward life's blessings rather than its burdens. This is not naive optimism, but practical psychology. What you consistently focus on expands in your awareness. During the darkest days of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln maintained his mental balance partly through deliberate attention to positive developments, however small. This practice prevented the despair that afflicted many of his contemporaries faced with the same circumstances. Even, perhaps especially, in challenging times, discipline yourself to identify and appreciate positive aspects of your situation. This practice does not deny difficulties, but prevents them from consuming your entire mental landscape. The final principle is philosophical acceptance. The mind that remains unbothered in all circumstances has made peace with certain fundamental truths. Change is constant, control is limited, fairness is not guaranteed, and difficulties are inevitable. John D. Rockefeller embraced these truths early in his career. "The ability to deal with the fact that life is not fair," he once remarked, "separates those who achieve from those who merely complain." This philosophical foundation does not promote passivity or resignation, but clear-eyed engagement with reality as it is, not as you might wish it to be. From this foundation of acceptance, purposeful action becomes possible without the friction of resistance to what cannot be changed. As you implement these principles, remember that the goal is not to become emotionless or detached from life's richness. The goal is freedom. Freedom from automatic reactions, freedom from emotional manipulation, freedom to choose your responses based on wisdom rather than conditioning. The practice of acting as if nothing bothers you is not pretense or suppression. It is the outward manifestation of an inward mastery that allows you to engage fully with life without being tossed about by its inevitable fluctuations. This mastery is available to anyone willing to develop it through patient practice. Your mind, like any other aspect of your being, responds to consistent training. What seems difficult today becomes natural through repetition. What requires conscious effort now becomes automatic through persistence. Begin today. When small irritations arise, practice these principles. Build your mental muscles in minor challenges so they will serve you faithfully when major tests appear. In time, you will develop such strength of character that others will marvel at your composure, wondering how you remain so calm, so centered, so effective amid conditions that unsettle everyone around you. Remember that this journey toward mental mastery is not merely for your personal comfort, though that is a worthy benefit. It is for the fulfillment of your highest potential, the work you are meant to do, the person you are meant to become, the contribution you are meant to make. The world needs individuals who can think clearly when others are confused, who can act decisively when others are paralyzed, who can maintain perspective when others have lost sight of what matters. By developing the ability to act as if nothing bothers you, you become such an individual, a source of strength, clarity, and leadership in a world desperately in need of these qualities. Begin now. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take that step today toward the unshakable mind that will serve you throughout all of life's adventures. In your darkest moments, when challenges seem overwhelming, remember this truth. You are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. In this fundamental choice lies your greatest power, the power to remain unbothered, unshaken, and unstoppable, regardless of external circumstances. This is your birthright. Claim it now and forever.